Good evening, folks. It's a real great privilege to have two very special guests. One who hails from the United Kingdom and the other one who hails from the United States of America. Graham's CV is long and illustrious. I don't think anybody in South Africa needs to remind us to be reminded about what he's achieved with our horses, the limited opportunities that he's had. And Greg Watson, part of That's Racing, thank you for joining us with your perspective on what's going to happen at Churchill Downs this weekend. And I think we're going to start off, first of all, by congratulating Graham on Gimme Another's sensational return to form, which we always believed she was capable of. She must be a very special filly to train, Graham.
Yeah, I think she is. I mean, she's a very kind, generous horse to train. She's very straightforward. We had a couple of hiccups with her over the winter, just unusual things. We had to remove a tooth from her, which set us back a couple of weeks. So we just had a few things that kept sort of pushing us back, and that's why she started so late in the year. But, it worked out great. It was a great spot for her, and the idea was to kind of prep her to hopefully get her to the Beverly D at Colonial in August.
Okay, well, I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see exactly what's going on here. But I'm going to ask you one very important question relating to a horse that comes from the exact same family, the same farm, really. A horse called Horse Chestnut arrived in America in 2000. And his main mission was to meet up with Dubai Millennium in the Dubai World Cup, which, of course, you ended up winning with Animal Kingdom. And it didn't go according to plan because perhaps the time in quarantine didn't give his latent injury a time to heal. I know that Gimme Another did not arrive in the United States of America with any kind of latent injury. She was a very sound filly. She had a perfect record. You must have been so excited to get her. But when a truth has to come out, it obviously affects the eating. Obviously, you have to give them antibiotics. It's something that is, I would imagine, quite a delicate process and something you have to monitor very carefully.
Yeah, very much. I mean, we couldn't put a bit in her mouth. And we actually went through this twice over the winter. But, obviously you can't put a bridle in their mouth right after they've had surgery. So, look, I think for her in the long run, hopefully we fix something that had been bugging her for a while and that she's a happier horse because of it. But she's just very, she's not a complicated filly. She does everything we ask her to do. She couldn't be kinder. She couldn't be more generous. So she kind of makes my job easy. It's just been a matter of finding these little issues that she had that we had to deal with, which comes, with an older horse anyway.
Well, look, just as blessed as she was to have Mike de Kock in South Africa, so too is she blessed to have you in the United States. And the pedigree, I mean, we have a love affair with this pedigree because we were in love with Mother Russia, her mother by Windrush, who of course was by Seeking the Gold. And then we had Another Russia, who was by Tiger Ridge. I mean, they were both truly international pedigrees. So there's no mistaking the fact that she should be up to the task of managing anything that the world has to throw at her.
Yeah, I hope so. Look, we've got an ambitious schedule for her. We'd like to get her back to the Breeders' Cup, which was where we wanted to run her last year. And I think she showed the other day that she can be very capable of that. And she showed that last year when she won at Del Mar. So, look, I think we're on the right track. I couldn't be happy with how she came out of the race. And I actually thought she might have needed the race the other day, but she didn't act like it.
Yeah, it's amazing how often we do this. We think about ourselves as human beings preparing for a race. We don't realize that racehorses don't have the luxury of partaking in anything that we do, whether it's one too many drinks or one too many meals. They are just natural athletes that are intrinsically bred to be fit and to be bred to race. So sometimes when there's a lot of rain and it wipes out a few workouts, we maybe underestimate and overthink what they've lost, where in actual fact they retain so much that we as humans don't.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, look, horses in general are just very generous animals. it's very hard to explain to people that aren't around them every day. But I think what they do for us, and the pleasure they give us, and their competitive spirit, something that's very hard to describe and put in words.
Well, just before we get to Isivungu Vungu, I would just like to ask my good friend Gregory what impact she's made on your life. You know, you have this connection with South Africa. There's a love affair with South Africa. What did she do when she hopped into the whole equation in the United States, and you couldn't wait to feed information back to South Africa about this wonder filly that's arrived there?
Exactly. I was really excited to hear she was going to Graham's barn. I knew he'd take care of her well. Yeah, it was exciting. Her being undefeated, and she's run extremely well since there. I did not see her getting that victory the other day. It totally surprised me. I thought she'd need the race. That was a long layoff she was coming off of, and now Graham, mentioned the other problems she had. That was a masterful job.
Yeah, and I think also running a little shorter than she probably wants to go. That was probably my concern on what's notoriously a very quick turf course at Monmouth.
Exactly.
But you see, the thing is that sometimes when you know too much, you overthink things. But I always keep on thinking about give me the green light. He was the first 3-year-old in many, many, many years to win the Lormorans Queen's Plate at weight for age. He was the son of More Than Ready, out of a top-class race mare, and he has passed on so much speed, so much stamina. There's so much versatility in that pedigree, and I don't suppose we could have, even though he is Australian by birth, we're just very delighted that she was a filly that was able to get into your barn and deliver that which is associated to South Africa.
We don't have to mention that he was Australian.
or that Animal Kingdom ended up having Australian partners of the highest echelon. Okay,
and we're great supporters of ours. So,
yeah, I must admit, I once had the privilege back in 1992 of meeting John Massara at the Sanctuary Cove sale with the president of America, of Australia being there, Bob Hawke. He did so much for the industry, which is always so important for a country. But let's get to Isivungu Vungu. He's an icon in this country from a point of view of being owned by Hollywood Bets, having won the Computerful Sprint. We know that he was dearly loved by Peter Muscat, and that he's got a lot of talent, and he's now starting to show that what may have been a slightly rushed preparation into getting him onto the track has now borne fruit.
Yes, I mean, look, he was a horse that came to me and was on a very rigorous schedule. I think we've talked about it before. He couldn't miss a beat to get to the Breeders' Cup. They did that tremendous amount of quarantine, which was really difficult for them to deal with. So my thought was, after we went to Dubai and he came back and ran a little disappointingly, I think twice, he needed a break. He hadn't had a break. He's an 8-year-old now. So we freshened him up. I had hoped to have him ready to run Preakness weekend in the stake. We actually had entered him, but I just wasn't content with how he was moving. Backed off him a little bit, got 2 works into him, and then this race popped up the other day. Over here, often these races come up that you don't. They're kind of supplemented races to the card. They're not always in the schedule, and this race just had his name written all over it. And I felt like, if he was close enough to being ready to get started, this was a spot to get him going, and it couldn't have worked out better. Georgie gave him a really cool ride. He knew he was on the best horse, and it just
you rode him
couldn't have worked out any better, really.
And has he come on from that? Has he benefit from that experience, and is he going forward?
I hope so. I think he will from a fitness point of view. And the beauty is, once you've got a race into a horse like that, you can ease up on the training, so he doesn't have to have that, every 7-day breeze. And I think that makes life easier for me and obviously for him. So he looks well. He carries pretty good condition. He's another, super kind horse, just a very generous horse.
So now, Mr. Watson, Greg, you have a question to ask Mr. Motion with regard to this coming weekend at Churchill Downs.
Yes, I noticed you had Warming entered in the Anchorage Stakes at Churchill. Is the weather going to depend on, or is he still going to run if you think the weather's going to be bad, or?
Yeah, and we're going to make a decision. She has to leave this afternoon, so we're going to go. It's the end of the meet at Churchill. I think that the course has drained really well. I mean, we're finally seeing the benefit of the new turf course. I think this year, from what I've seen, it's handled rain very well. So I would imagine, it does look like a significant amount of rain, but I'm fingers crossed. She's leaving here at about 5 o'clock this evening, so she'll get into Churchill tomorrow morning.
So if it is soft, softish turf, you think she'll take to that very well?
Yeah, look, it's hard to know until they handle it, but she's a genuine turf horse. I don't know why she wouldn't. I think often in those cases, it's the horses that dislike it.
Yeah.
The least, right?
Yeah.
But that course has, after heavy rain, has come through and been good ground.
Yeah,
so
it's a lot like the Keeneland course, isn't it, where it drains very well?
Sure. So I'm not overly concerned. The filly's in great form, and it just seems like a good spot. And I think the distance is good, and the timing's good for her.
Yeah, her race at Laurel was that was an impressive turn of foot there at the end.
Yeah, and it worked out great that Johnny can ride her. I mean, that's a huge help. He knows her so well now.
Yes, sir.
And she's got a good draw, which I think helps.
One more question for Graham. As far as the Stephen Foster, and I know you don't have a horse in there, but Magnitude's coming from Dubai, first race since the Dubai World Cup. I'm sure you have experience in that. How do you handle that kind of switch coming back from Dubai? It's such a long journey.
Yeah, I think, look, Steve's probably done it more than any of us.
Yeah, true.
And he's pretty darn good at it. So it would seem like he's given the horse plenty of time. I've never been overly concerned about it myself. I sometimes think that it's used as an excuse where there are probably other reasons for horses not running well when they come back from Dubai. I certainly think it's a mistake to run them too quickly when they come back, but it would seem to me like he's had plenty of time, and he's obviously a very good horse.
Yeah, definitely.
I suppose when you think about it, when you think about horses like Arrogate and California Chrome, they were probably more or less at the peak of their careers when they went to Dubai, whereas Magnitude, I think, is still on the up. And, having won the race with Curlin as the Hall of Famer, the guy that's trained the most winners, he got an idea of when next to run him and not to rush him back, as you've alluded to.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think there are other circumstances often why these horses haven't run well when they come back from Dubai. To me, it's a little bit overrated, that angle.
Well, when you talk about that angle, you talk about running back quickly. Twice it's happened in a row that the inverted commas best horse in the world has got beaten in the Dubai World Cup. Whether he just doesn't like Maidan, we don't know. But it could be that Herculaneum effort that he puts in in Qatar does take its toll so close to the race. Even though it was a little bit longer this year, he didn't run up to his best possible form.
Look, to me, I think that's much more of a genuine concern or a real angle. I think when you run horses back off these huge races too quickly, especially with the traveling involved, to me, that's always a red flag. And he's a phenomenal racehorse, but clearly, that race has taken its toll on him for him to come back that quickly in Dubai.
Well, I remember a very famous interview with Bob Baffert, and he said, if I'd have known what that race took out of my horse, I would have thrown him in the paddock for 6 months, because, he ultimately ended up passing away, which was nothing to do with that. But the point is that if you look at that Dubai World Cup many, many times over, and you see what Arrogate did on that particular day, it's beyond belief. And obviously that he went to the bottom of the barrel, and that's really what emptied him out for the rest of his career.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's very hard for us as trainers to read how much you have gotten to the bottom. And I think that's always a tricky thing. And I think as trainers in America nowadays, we're so much more conservative than we used to be. We tend to give them much more time, especially these good horses. And I think it's warranted. I think when horses lay down for you like that, it takes them longer to get over it than you realize.
Well, I just loved what you said earlier on in the program about what these horses do for us, because the more documentaries I watch on horses, whether it's Vincent O'Brien or there are many great trainers out there that have dedicated their lives to the sport, and I just find it quite strange and quite sad in a way that horse racing is somehow on the same kind of level as casinos and the same kind of level as other sports, because it is the king of the sport of kings. And when you think about how many years these horses carry their names, whoever they are, whether it's Secretariat or whoever it may be, the whole country, the whole world is built on their backs. And we're always grateful to speak to great men that have toiled for so long. And we just want to know one more thing from you, Mr. Motion, this evening. I know you have another appointment coming up very shortly. Looking forward to Saratoga. Anything that we should be looking out for long range?
Yeah, I certainly have some I want to run. I'm looking forward to running. I ran a 2-year-old the other day out of Mean Mary, who was second, first time out. She's a gun runner, and I'm kind of excited to get her back in. She ran a good second, probably will benefit from the race. Cruise the Nile, I hope to run up there in the Kelso going a mile. He won 4 in a row over the winter in Florida, and then he won at Laurel, and he was beaten the other day. Probably a trainer's error. We ran him a little further than he wants to go. So yes, I think we've got some prospects. I'm not set on taking too many up there because it's so competitive. But
yeah,
hopefully we can go up there and have some fun with a couple of these guys.
Okay, well, Graham, I'm going to thank you very much indeed for joining us. Always, whether it's 5 minutes or 50 minutes, it is just a great honor to have you on our show, and we wish you well for this coming weekend. I hope the weather is kinder than it has been predicted, and that Saratoga goes really, really well. Oh, yes, Greg wanted to ask you one more question about a
that
colt
horse
that is related to
heading,
a South African filly.
that horse
Out of the South African filly.
heading out of Celtic Sea.
Yeah, it looked
Yeah.
really promising. We considered running him Preakness weekend in the 3-year-old race, and then he came up with a little issue, so he's getting some time. So
Okay.
I doubt we'll see him back till the fall.
I was actually telling Andrew, I was like, I bet he'll pop up on Preakness Day, but I was a little disappointed. But now you have, there's a good reason for it. So.
That was the
Well,
plan.
we'll wait.
Came out of a work with a little bit of an issue and just needed some bit of time.
Yeah, I thought his run at Keeneland was impressive. I think there's a
He's
lot more to
impressive.
come.
Yeah.
Well,
Very good.
as I said, Graham, we're going to continue our discussion regarding Churchill Downs this weekend. It's a field that's kind of cut up a bit, but once again, thank you so much for joining us, and look forward to catching up with you in the foreseeable future. Thanks for your time.
And South Africa got through the next round of the World Cup, right?
Yeah, I must admit, my wife said to me, is it such a big deal? I said, yes, it is. It's a very big deal because it is the most played sport in South Africa, and we don't even come close to what we are able to produce on the rugby field or the cricket field, which is something that I really don't want to go into because I'm not a soccer expert, but I'm delighted they got through, and the whole nation will be behind them.
Very good. Well, good luck with that. Good talking with you guys.
Nice to meet you, Graham.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Watson, what are we talking about? We're talking about the Stephen Foster that's cut up to a field of 5, whether it's the weather or whatever it is. Let's see if we can fathom it out.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm just scrolling down there real quick.
Sovereignty. You can't beat him.
I think he's sitting on a big one. As a better, I don't like the 6-5 at all. That's why I was interested in asking Graham about the magnitude that angle coming back from Dubai. I liked his input, and like he said, and you said too. Steve, if anybody's can do it, Steve Asmussen can do it. He's done it before. But the 2 scratches, especially the scratch of forged steel, he was going to be contending the pace with Magnitude. Now the complexion changes totally. Magnitude, they can't let him get loose on the lead easy, which, I think Sovereignty had that run already, got a good second. He's beaten Magnitude before. He's not going to let him get too far away. The other question, can White Barrio? He continues to surprise me. I mean,
is his real name White Barrio, or was it Gray Barrio?
He's getting there now. It seems. I think he's actually getting more white as he
correct
as he gets
older. Yeah.
He should have been Gray Barrio to begin with. Because I liked him back in 2014 when he was on the Derby Trail. I had him in the I think it was a race down at Gulfstream one day. But yeah, he just continues to surprise, and you just don't know which one's going to show up. He's got 2 runs at Churchill Downs in which he's only got a 3rd place finish out of it. I don't think he's going to like it if it's sloppy track. I'm kind of out on him a little bit this race. But then again, I was out on him at Oaklawn, and he just destroyed him. He left Sovereignty in his wake. The other question is Baeza. Bill Mott's got Sovereignty in here, but he's also throwing Baeza at him. That's an interesting move because he had that, the layoff since November, came back on, I think it was Oaks Day on the undercard and ran a very close 3rd. He was only beat like 3/4 of a length and one of them was Skippy Longstocking that got 2nd. That's a good horse. He won the Pegasus.
Very good. Very good.
So, it's not like he didn't get beat by nobodies, and he had some problems at the start in that one. There's races where he's shown a little bit of pace to keep closer in smaller fields, so he might have that that luxury too. And they got Flavian Pratt on his back. You can't get much better than that. So it could still, even with those 4 tight horses there, it could be a very good race. And then again, Sovereignty could win by 10.
Okay, so what is Sovereignty's perfect style of racing? Will he get that opportunity to execute that? And what is his ultimate going if you had to have a perfect world?
Well, his ultimate going is going to be the more rain, the better. He loves it. It's in his running style has somewhat changed. It changed last year a bit. Because you see the Churchill, the Derby races and the ones leading into that, the prep races leading it, he was coming from way behind. And then all of a sudden at Saratoga, he started getting a little bit more into the race earlier and not leaving himself as much to do at the end. That would be his ideal running style, come Saturday. Because like I said, he cannot let Magnitude get out there on a loose, easy lead. Kind of like he did in the Dubai Cup. They kind of let him out there thinking he's going to come back. And Magnitude's a horse that gets braver on the lead the further he goes. So you can't expect him to always come back to you.
Okay, so we do know now that Greg Watson is on Race Fault. So if people want your full selections for the meeting, they're going to have to pay a paltry. It's like an ice cream. 40 Rand is like you can buy an ice cream for 40 Rand to get all these pearls of wisdom. But just give us 2 or 3 pointers for the rest of the day, because as we all know, the main race of the afternoon or the evening is very thin. It's laden with class. It's laden with opportunities for horses to upset the apple cart. And we know that Sovereignty pulls the apple cart, is the apple cart, is the apple, whichever way you want to look at it.
I'll go ahead and give my Stephen Foster pick. I'm going to go with Magnitude.
Okay.
I just can't take the odds on 6-5 on Sovereignty, and with the scratches, he's going to be down to 2-5, 1-5. You're not going to make him be that way. You can get a healthy 7-2. Magnitude's showing 7-2 morning line. He could drift up to 4 or 5-1. You get a horse that's brave on the lead, he also will like the wet going if that's the case. And he put in a sharp work, going back to what Graham was saying about him coming back from Dubai. And I noticed looking at the, he's had plenty of work since Dubai, and there was a nice sharp 59 and change work 2 works back, which is usually Steve Asmussen's, that's his calling card. He does the hard work and then gives them an easy breeze into the race. And he's on that schedule.
I remember seeing the last workout before the Kentucky Derby back in 1973 when I was only 13 years old. I watched the video. Secretariat in his last gallop over 5 furlongs recorded 57.7. I mean, that's how good he was. I mean, it's frightening, isn't it?
Yes. Let me give you another pick. Let me see what race that was. It was it'll be the 10th race. So it's the race right before the Stephen Foster. I really am high on a horse called Dresden Row. And let me give you the South African link here. He used to run at Woodbine, and Mr. Ryan Munger rode him. Looks like maybe 10 times. And all of a sudden they shut down on him in November and then brought him back April at Keeneland, but he was with Todd Pletcher's barn. And that race at Keeneland was really impressive to me. The way he did it, it was easy. He's also come back and ran at Churchill Downs and got another win. He's got Irad Ortiz on his back. Now, technically, he's out of the Todd Pletcher barn for this race, but that's because Pletcher's serving a 10 days suspension or something like that. So
what's that all about?
His assistant. I don't really have the details on it. I'll have to research that a little bit, but
seems like if you've got a name that begins with a B, you get into trouble.
Well, yeah.
Sorry,
but I really like this horse. Irad rode him in the Churchill race, his last race, which was a win. Now that and the Keeneland race were allowance company, and so he's stepping it up a little bit in class. But he's got plenty of back class from Woodbine. He's ran in some good races at Turfway Park. He was kind of a synthetic horse, and Pletcher must have somebody saw something and said, hey, let's get him on the turf. And he's been a monster since.
That is very good to hear. Now, you know what? I took your cue. I sent a message to Ryan Munger in Canada, and I asked him specifically, just for 5 minutes of chatter. He said, it's so difficult with the time change to work things out. So I'm working on it. I'm hoping that I do get a chance to chat to him. But the bottom line is, we thank you very much indeed, as always, for your time. Look forward to opening your tips on Race Vault, and anything else that needs to be communicated, you can communicate through me, and I will gladly pass it on to the team, the fold, and I hope that it doesn't rain too much at Churchill Downs this particular weekend.
I'll keep you posted on the weather. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Greg. All the best, my man. Take care.
Have a good one.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.